Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Podcast, episode 101, with me, Richard.
Ash,
And I'm Dan.
How are we all doing, boys?
ladies first.
That was age before beauty. We struggled on both, haven't we? All right, yeah. Sound?
Yeah, decent
Not so
weekend?
Not so bad.
Yesterday, mate. I didn't do very much, but sometimes they're the best weekends.
Yeah, that's true. Chilled weekend is the best weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, happy Halloween to everyone listening.
Yes.
Get the mask on ready.
You'll see that on the YouTube, the masks are all on.
Yeah. I'm going to be go trick or treating this evening. Hopefully, I can scare a few people into getting some sweeties.
Yeah. Are you a big Halloweener?
I'm not.
No?
He loves it. All year round with face.
Yeah.
You deck the house out, or?
Not for me.
No.
Alice loves it with kids, but
I'm
Not
putting a
for me.
beware on the door, that's about it.
too
Yeah,
miserable for it,
To
mate.
show that we're ready. You know, like, the kids
Yeah,
can
yeah.
come to our house, innit?
Yes, I've eaten all sweets already, so that's my problem.
So, why are we here? Why are we starting a podcast? Why do you want to start a podcast?
A bit mad, really. I don't know why we are doing a podcast because it's awkward as hell. Straight up, we're Marvel Trading. We're a trading company, and I guess the sort of main point of why we're doing the podcast is to be able to not preach, but sort of support and help people by giving them information, snippets, advice, guidance on different forms of training.
Yeah.
Some of which obviously Dan will come on to speaking about a bit later on. But yeah, we're just here as a support for businesses and individuals who are looking to upskill.
Yeah.
One of the things is to educate, but without preaching. You think of training courses, particularly with a work environment, and you think they're boring. Particularly like we specialise in first aid, and a lot of people think it's boring.
Mhm.
I've got to go. Work's told me I've got to go. I really don't want to. And it's trying to make that little bit of a difference so that people actually engage. They'll learn something, but they'll do it in a way that's fun. And if this helps that, there might be little snippets that people end up watching, and it might teach them a bit of something we are actually feeling preached to, and actually they think it's quite interesting rather than you're old-fashioned, you're boring. Sit down, watch this. This is what you do. I'm just going to tell you for 2 or 3 days straight. So hopefully we can make a difference with that.
Yeah. I think that's a good reason to start, to be honest. Before we go any further, could you tell them a bit about yourselves, like your backgrounds in business, etc.?
So myself, my background's primarily construction. 15 years in construction, working for a few different companies. Obviously, I went to uni, had part-time jobs before that, and whilst at uni, I made sure I enjoyed uni, but I was ready to come into the real world and start working. But yeah, construction is where I've started, and obviously in that period, that sort of encouraged me into understanding where we are as a nation, where we are as a construction industry, and therefore the other sectors and industries, and the real issue that we have, which is we've got such a significant skills gap. This is where the training becomes vital, because people in this day and age have not necessarily had the support for training through the government or their companies that they're working for. So that's obviously part of the reason why we're here, is because we want to assist and support where we can, and get people skilled up so they know what they're doing, and they feel more confident and competent to do the jobs.
Would you say your experience goes hand in hand with the training? So like construction experience?
The construction stuff does. Obviously, like I say, we train across several industries. It's not just the construction. My personal experience is the construction industry, so I'm more clued up about the construction training that's required, the legislation, the regulations, and that's where I sort of come into my own in supporting individuals or companies. But Dan has got more of a widespread experience, I guess, which sort of complements me and complements the business. And that's the reason why we're here.
And I think anyone listening or watching the YouTube video right now will notice the name Marvel Training.
Yeah.
Obviously, Marvel's quite a big deal.
Yeah.
What made you go with Marvel?
Dan loves this story because he just loves it, and he loves me talking about it because the office is filled out with kit of Marvel stuff, superhero stuff.
It's like a 5-year-old bedroom.
Honestly, you should see our reception. It's like a kid's playground. It's got so much Marvel stuff, and it's brilliant. But basically, that's where the name came from. Marvel and superheroes. I've got a significant obsession with it, even as far as having Marvel tattooed on my body, some superheroes. So yeah, I love the name Marvel. I love what it stands for in terms of the superheroes, and really, there's an underlying meaning there. It's about sort of believing in the impossible and achieving the impossible, which again, I know it's made up stories, it's comics, it's fiction, but the point of it is believing in yourself and believing in what you can achieve. And really, that's what Marvel's here to help individual or businesses do, is to grow and learn, educate. So that's pretty much it. As geeky as it is, my love of Marvel.
I think that's a great story, to be fair.
Yeah.
Now moving on to the actual training then. I know you come from various backgrounds. You've got the construction training courses, but you've also got your first aid courses. I know that's sort of like the busiest course you currently do at the minute. How do you find doing them courses, the first aid ones?
I'm going to let Dan start talking because I'm getting very tired of it now. I'm going to let Dan step in because this is Dan's arena as opposed to mine. So,
cheers.
So hang on, sorry. What's your background? Do you want to give the audience a bit about you and your background and whatnot?
Let's present it, not you.
Yeah, we've learned
we're all here to help and lean on one another.
So
we've learned all about Ash. Now we learn about you.
So my background is considerably more varied. So I left school after doing sixth form, went to university, trained to be a PE teacher. So I did that for 2 or 3 years, and total left field moved into construction training and supply. 10 years of that, with various sort of odd jobs as a 18, 19, 20-year-old at university. So working in bars, working in shops. I worked for an insurance company for about 3 months. So quite a broad spectrum of things where you pick up quite a lot of different skills that I think are important when you become an adult and you move into, I'll say, proper work, meaning full-time work, something that you want to make a career out of. One of the biggest ones of which is just people skills. So working in a bar or a pub, it's that mixing with people that you wouldn't normally mix with. So as an 18-year-old lad, I wanted to mix with, 18-year-old girls mostly, but you want to mix with people your own age. But then working in a bar, you're serving a 70-year-old, and then you're serving a 20-year-old, and then you're serving a 40-year-old. And you learn how to have a conversation with different people. And obviously the bar had restaurants, you work on the restaurant side, right? So then you see people that are unhappy, if something's gone wrong, something wrong with the meal or whatever. So you pick up those skills that actually then, when you move into full-time work and what you want to do as a career, you realise not everybody thinks the same way as you, and your different ways of dealing with things. So I think that gives you a good grounding. I've always said I think everybody, like every young person moving sort of to 16 through to 18, 19, should work in a bar or a pub or a restaurant, because it gives you such a good grounding. But then, come out of that, finish university, did the teaching for a few years, loved it, but basically couldn't find full-time work. Changes in government, veer off to all different subject, but changes in government meant it was more difficult to do it than it would have been had there not been a change in government. And then, like I said, moved into the construction training side, Did that for 10 years and worked for a really successful regional company, progressed really well through that. And then came the opportunity to set Marvel Training going on its path with Ash. And we've known each other since we were sort of 6-7 years old, played football together. Unfortunately for me, one of the best things that's happened to him. And basically we've gone now sort of 10 months. I've managed not to kill him yet. But it's just, we've grown from kind of having a website and an idea through to, we're now delivering training courses sort of 3-4 times a week, and we're spending that other day a week or so trying to develop the business and push it on even further, one of which is this. So I think background varied, mixed from, like I said, customer service type work, working in bars, to teaching, through to the training and the construction side together, and then into obviously this now and running the training side here.
Do you enjoy working together?
I'll let Ash answer that. My noise has just given my answer.
I knew what Dan's answer would be straight away.
He's all right, to be fair. He's all right, because I don't really see him that often because I'm out training. If we worked in office together full time, I think I'd strangle him.
Yeah, there are times where we sit there in absolute silence. Cool. We probably don't say anything to each other for could be several hours.
We have known each other for, like I said, what will that be now? 25 plus years?
Yeah, which is quite mad when you think about it.
And joking aside, we do get on really well. I think one of the things is, to be fair, because we've known each other for so long, we know when to shut up, we know when to speak. But no, to be fair, we do work well together. We don't actually spend that much time together because of the fact that I'm out delivering and Ash is working on other sides of the business together to grow it. But we kind of know what makes each other tick. And I think that comes from knowing each other for so long.
You know what buttons to push and what ones don't to push.
And we know when to stay clear of each other as well.
Yeah.
As daft as it sounds, is a big thing for each other, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a big thing when you're working so close with somebody. So,
yeah. So back to the training. Like I mentioned earlier, the first aid course is your most popular course at the minute. Why do you think that is?
Truthfully, I think it's because there's two reasons. I think it's, number one, because people know how important it is, but number two, it's because companies are scared to death of the fines and the repercussions if they don't have people trained, which is a bit of a sad state of affairs, really. It should be more of number one. We have a incredible health service in Britain, but it's vastly underfunded. So the more people that know what to do in an emergency or a first aid scenario, or even a minor first aid scenario, the better the person's chance of recovering or being helped quicker is. Because, I mean, we'll have all done it. Us three people, who might be listening, whoever, we'll have all at some point ended up going to A&E and sitting for 4 hours for something that then somebody looks at for 5 minutes and goes, just rest it, and if there's any problems, come back. If we've got a first aider who can tell us that same thing, then we've saved ourselves 4 hours. So for us as individuals, it's better. For companies, we lost time. Lost time equals lost revenue. It's so much better if you've got adequate first aiders. It's safer. First and foremost, your biggest reason is it's safer for people. Biggest asset for any company is your staff, is your people. So for the sake of a couple of £100, why would you risk, not having a first aider on site and there to do what's necessary?
What's the first aid courses like? How long do they normally take?
Depends where you do them. Depends who they're for. So we do a massive variety. So we do everything from first aid for parents, which is like a 2-hour session. And it is just to give not just parents, it could be carers, aunties, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, grandparents, whoever you can think of, anybody who's got a responsibility for looking after a baby or a child. That's what it's targeted to, and it basically will show them in a couple of hours what to do in sort of emergency circumstances, so that they've got a bit of confidence that, God forbid, anything should ever happen, they know what to do. That's really popular with sort of children's play groups, with community groups. Sometimes we'll get bookings where it is just a family, particularly if it's like the first child in that family, where mum and dad, auntie and uncle and grandparents just deliver to those at their house or whatever. So that'll take us a couple of hours. We do emergency first aid at work, which is a 1-day course. We'll do the full first aid at work, which is 3 days. Pediatric, which is designed for children, but for people who work with children, that's a couple of days course. And everything in between. Basic life support is like a half-day course. It teaches the absolute necessities that you need to know as a first aider. So there's such a wide variety of courses and the bespoke stuff that we can do as well, that gives the company or the people who are attending some input into what they want to know. So we have sort of an endless ability to train whatever you want effectively. If we have people that have got specific staff with allergies, we can focus on those sorts of things. If we've got people with specific medical conditions, we can focus on those sorts of things. So we really, one of the key areas that we as a company want to focus on is putting the customer's needs first. So if they said to us, we've got Tony who has a nut allergy, we'll specifically focus on what to do. We'll make a big deal out of what to do if, God forbid, Tony's ever exposed. So yeah, there's loads of, it's hard to say it takes 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours. It depends on what you want, but there's so many different varieties that we can do.
And this podcast is proudly brought to you by Marvel Training Ltd. You can find us at www.marveltrainingltd.co.uk for all your training needs. Do you find people enjoy the courses when you host them?
I hope they do. The feedback that we get is good. The feedback that we get is really good. And I think one of the reasons for that is we go down the route of what I mentioned a moment ago. We understand that training is, historically, it's quite boring. It's put on a PowerPoint presentation, watch a video, and just listen to my script for a full day. I won't want to do that. I'm sure you two want to do that. It's more a case of, we need to teach you A, B, C. What's the best way of doing it so that you're going to take A, B, and C in? Do it. So everything we do, wherever possible, is hands-on. So mannequins on site, every course we do. We've got choking vests, we've got training EpiPens, we've got training defibs, we've got bandage sets and false limbs that we can take to courses, and people can practice wrapping around a real life cut. Only the leg's made out of foam, not a person. But it's better than, let's watch your video and great. Can I ever go? Well, no, we'll just watch that and then I'll sign you off. We try to do things so it's engaging, it's fun, and it actually gives you real life experience, because I could watch Man City play on telly. Don't mean I can do it. So I'd like to have that hands-on experience of giving something a go. And that's where we, I think, are slightly different to some companies out there who will go through the motions, if you like.
I think I'll just add a bit to that, is that Dan as well is very good at engaging with people in terms of when he's doing the courses. It's not always, as much as there's a serious tone behind everything, Dan's very good at engaging with the people on the course and breaking the seriousness up into sort of segments and using a bit of fun and a bit of banter, which is important for engagement and to keep someone's attention, not just for the audience in which you're sort of educating, but for Dan's sake as well. And I think that's where Dan sort of comes into his own, because he's got that capability of keeping an audience engaged. And obviously I try and do the same, but I just want to say Dan's very good at that.
That's all the late nights at the bar, isn't it? It's fine.
Yeah.
Promise me a tenner.
No, never.
And where would people find this to be able to book this for their businesses?
So we've got a big presence online, haven't we? Social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, bits and pieces like that. Website, marveltrainingltd.co.uk. There's full details on there. Get in touch on there. Website, email, so it's inquiries@marveltrainingltd.co.uk. Drop us a message and we'll take it from there.
And soon you won't be able to escape that logo, because they'll be blowing up on TikTok, Instagram. You'll see it everywhere. So be ready for it.
Fingers crossed. One thing I will say again is, just to add on, is we're not here to sell to the audience. We're here to engage with you. As much as we do want to have your business and create that working relationship and support you long term in whatever that is, the main thing is people are educated across life and the industries that they work in. And if you don't use us, use someone else who you trust in. But the main thing is that you put yourself in a position where you're confident and you're comfortable in dealing and managing that scenario. That's not just related to first aid situations, that's just in life generally. You're better off putting yourself in a position where you're prepared for worst case scenarios as what you are for anything else.
I think that's a perfect segue into talking about the future of the podcast and where you want to go with this podcast.
Yeah.
So I know we've spoke behind the scenes about maybe bringing on other businessmen to talk about their experiences in the industries. Talk about things like construction, how to get into the construction industry, because that's not readily available online due to it being 2023. It's all about how to become the next TikTok superstar. So yeah, if you're not.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? Yeah, that's sort of nail on the head, really, is that as we progress and as we grow and as we evolve, we'll obviously talk about other topics and other means and ways of educating people. And it's not just about, obviously, like I said, the first aid or anything specific. We're here to try and support people and hopefully help guide people into better positions in life, whether that's through their career or with the business or just upskilling or developing themselves in whichever what manner. So that will obviously come in time, and we're obviously hoping to engage with the audience and sort of build that relationship. Obviously, in the last couple of days, we're based in Sheffield, so people know. In the last couple of days, there's been an ice hockey match, Sheffield Steelers versus Nottingham Panthers, and there's been a serious, unfortunate accident where one of the Nottingham Panthers players unfortunately got their throat cut by a player, or by accident, a bit of a freak accident. But between all the three of us, we just want to obviously send our love and best out to the family and obviously the fans that had to sort of witness what happened. It is such an unusual scenario, and it's such a sad scenario, and we are very saddened to hear that the player passed away. So we are sorry about that. But I want to sort of swing this round in a different way. Is that's what happened was in a professional sport. Now, this sort of comes back to the importance of people being prepared for such scenarios. And in everyday life, not everybody has the support whereby they've got paramedic on hand, or someone there that's first aid trained. So it's important to make sure you've educated yourself and you know what to do in these types of scenarios. And for the sake of what Dan said, a couple of £100, sometimes not even that, whether it's us or somebody else, educate yourself so you know what to do in the scenario of anything happening. It's important that we all look after each other and we're there for each other, physically, mentally. There's no price on a life. So we send our best out to the family, the ice hockey family, and we sincerely help the family get through everything.
So this has been the Marvel Training Podcast, episode 101, with me, Richard.
Ash.
Dan.
Catch you all next week.